From small beginnings in Kansas City to a young and tenacious franchise in Newark, New Jersey, full of dreams and goals, finding little success until the 1990s, where a plan was set into motion that would build one of the most dominant teams in NHL history. 3 Stanley Cups to their name, countless Hall of Famers, years of manhandling the National Hockey League via some of the best to ever lace up a pair of skates. Martin Brodeur, considered one of the greatest goalies of all time. Scott Niedermayer, the most versatile player in Devils history, and Scott Stevens, the captain for each of the franchise's Stanley Cups. One of the most ruthless defenders. This incarnation of the Devils did not take prisoners. Where did the fire this franchise had go? Years of mediocrity, lottery picks with no vision for the future, walking blind through a league filled with the best hockey can offer, wasted potential. No more will the Devils be the laughingstock. No more will they fight without a cause. This team will take no prisoners once again. GM Thumbs has been given one task: cast fire upon those who challenge this franchise's potential might. Once again, build a team that can dominate and reign supreme. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my first franchise mode series in NHL 21. Get the hell out of New Jersey, Ray Shiro. GM Thumbs is taking the driver's seat for this organization. 17 years without a Stanley Cup championship. To put that into perspective, I wasn't even 3 years old yet. I can't remember being 3. I can barely remember what I had for lunch today, but I digress. GM Thumbs wants to make this New Jersey team believable again. If you look to the 90s and the early 2000s, that team had an identity. They were the mean. They were the bullies. They bullied their opponents. They were one of the, if not the best defensive team of all time, with cornerstones like Scott Stevens, Martin Brodeur, Scott Niedermayer, Meyer, whatever. I'm terrible at pronunciating things. You'll get, if this is your first episode of mine, I am very sorry, but I have a grade 4 reading and speaking level. When I say identity, I mean a few things. The New Jersey Devils have not won a playoff series since 2012. 2012, when everybody thought the world was going to end. Since then, it hasn't been the same for the Devils. They made the postseason in 2018, and, they faced Tampa Bay, and how do you think that went? They've had an MVP on their lineup in Taylor Hall. He won the Hart Memorial Trophy in 2018 with 90-plus points. Phenomenal season. And guess where he is? He's in Buffalo now. You traded him in a package to the Arizona Coyotes, and they lost him as well. But you didn't get as much as everybody thought you'd get out of that trade, especially considering he was probably your best offensive talent you'd had in 20 years. Now, don't get me wrong. This current New Jersey team has a few great players like Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes, but this team does not have an identity. As the general manager, I have brought dynasties to Columbus, Calgary, Minnesota, and Alaska. Even Alaska. I have done work there. It did take me some time with some of those teams, but I have the skills and the necessary tools to get it done here as well. I want to make this team great, and that is the plan. Now, I do apologize for this video being a day late. I had a lot of troubles with school. I had to go on campus and fix some projects up because I don't have the equipment at my current residence or my home. I don't live in residence, but my computer's trash. I have a laptop that can't close, so if anybody wants to be my sugar mama or sugar daddy, I'm totally open for it. Today's video is just an overview of the roster. For New Jersey's roster, I'm not going to be doing any simulating until Thursday because I still have some roster editing to go. I sat down after school today and I made about 60 custom players in 6 hours, somewhere around there. Put a lot of time and effort into this. Still not quite there yet, but I thought you guys should at least have an introduction to the New Jersey Devils. And I'm going to be saying New Jersey a lot, so I do apologize. So let's get right into the contracts. Now, I do apologize again for being a day late. I know a lot of the people on my YouTube channel knew that it was coming out Monday, and I still don't have community posts yet for some weird reason. But if something does go wrong on my YouTube, always go ahead and check out my Twitter. It's in the link in the description below. I post there daily, and I do have some nice content, if I do say so myself. But I digress. The New Jersey Devils. What do they have? What are they? What is their identity? Now, as an outsider looking in on the Devils, they're one of the more irrelevant teams. Not even trying to be mean. I'm just saying they're not like the Rangers or even the Islanders. I wouldn't even say they're a clown show. Not like the Buffalo Sabres or the Florida Panthers or the Arizona Coyotes. They have a foundation. They do, to work off of. They do. But they are not set on a path like some of these other rebuilders that know exactly what they are and they know what path they have to go on. I feel for the last, 8 seasons, the Devils don't really know what they're doing. They get a few lottery picks here or there. Sometimes they feel like they're a contender. The next year, they're horrible. And then they get Taylor Hall. And then it's a whole mess. They have not been set on one path. And that's exactly what I need you guys for. I'm not totally sure what this team is capable of. It is EA, so I have a bad feeling if we do start a rebuild here in New Jersey, they'll somehow play well. Obviously, we're going to make a good decision at the end of viewing these rosters, but I'm putting it out there for you guys to think about while watching this episode. Rebuild, retool, or contend. I have my own personal opinions, but I want to hear what you guys have to say in the comments down below. Hey, Kat McGregor, can you stop looking at me like that? It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Don't look at me like you want food. You're large and in charge, I understand. I'm not even going to take that out of the episode. Boy, I swear to God. Don't look at me like... No, stop. Hey. Oh, my. Okay, so. The New Jersey Devils. I think their current best player is none other than the former first overall pick in Nico Hischier. People seem to forget about this kid. He was just signed to a $7.25 million contract. You might say, that's a pretty rich contract for somebody who hasn't really done too much in the league. And on a few notes, I kind of agree with that. But if you look at his game, outside of New Jersey being crap, he has been their most consistent player over the last couple of years other than Palmieri. He is their future alongside 2 or 3 other players that in my mind, are the only guys that I'd be considering never letting go. Nico Hischier, in my opinion, when I start making moves, is not leaving this organization anytime soon. He is a two-way forward, which fits into the identity that I want to go for. You know, I've never tried to make a defensive bully team. A team full of power forwards, guys that are going to smush you, turn you into dust, that sort of thing. It doesn't really work in NHL games, but it's definitely a path we can take. Nico Hischier is captain material. We just need to surround him with the right people. Is Kyle Palmieri the right person? Is Gusev the right player? Came over from the KHL, didn't even have that bad of a first season. He's actually really productive. Minus 15. Plus minus is never the stat to look at, especially coming into a new team. A team that doesn't really know what they are. 44 points in his first NHL season is a big plus. Now, since I'm the general manager and I will be taking over this club very shortly, I really don't see any of these guys long term. Maybe Palmieri just to stick by Nico Hischier so he has some talent around him. Nikita Gusev doesn't really want to be here in New Jersey. Andreas Johnson, who was just traded over from the Toronto Maple Leafs for Joey Anderson. Joey Anderson is not a big prospect to give up for a guy whose best season was 43 points. Former Calder Cup playoff MVP not too long ago. I think he's a solid player. He can at least get you half point per game every season. You know, you put him alongside a guy like Jack Hughes, who we will get to in a moment. And then you have a guy like Jesper Bratt. Now, obviously, I still have some roster editing to do. There's going to be a few players you notice that are like, oh, they should be higher overall. Don't worry. I'm still going in with a fine comb and checking everything around the league. Don't you worry about that. Bratt is probably a part of our future, but I say some players are a part of our future, but then I also say, on the other hand, not everybody is going to stay on this team. Even if you're young and talented, there will always be a trade out there for you. If the trade comes along and I think it's right, then I'll make that trade. Is there really an untouchable on this roster? Maybe 2 or 3 guys. Is Jesper Bratt one of those guys? I don't think he is, but he's also a nice talent to have, especially alongside the former first overall pick in Jack Hughes. Now, a lot of people have a lot of weird, differing opinions on Jack Hughes. Some homers say, oh, a rookie season, phenomenal, couldn't get any better. And the complete opposite is saying, oh, he's a bust, he'll never amount to anything. New Jersey had a crap season. I'm not saying that as an excuse for Jack Hughes. 20 points in 60 games, not the best for the former first overall pick. Is he going to get better? Without a doubt. Without a doubt. He has the skills and the hockey IQ and the playmaking ability to be a point per game guy. It's just a matter of when and how fast. And I see him as probably one of 3 untouchables on this team. The only other guy was a guy that was just recently drafted in the 2020 NHL draft, which we will get to. But Jack Hughes, he'll be our first second-line center. Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes are the 1-2 punch that we'll need. Not comparing them to Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin in Pittsburgh, but they definitely have the same aura. They're not on the same talent level, but you need those elite centermen to win Stanley Cups and become a dynasty, and that's exactly what we want to be. Now, after Jack Hughes in the NHL lineup, there really isn't a whole lot to gloat about. Pavel Zacha. Where do I start with this kid? I really like the power forward part of him. The 6'3", 210 pounds. If I'm moving into a defensive generalist style, Pavel Zacha is definitely a guy I want alongside me for that time. $2.25 million is a hefty price to pay for a guy that's proved that he probably isn't an NHL player, or at least a top 6 guy. Do I like him on the third line at 1.5, maybe 2? Yeah. Is he an experiment for us for the first couple of years? I think so. So it's definitely a guy I want to play around with and see how we can shape him, because he's still young. We can still do a lot with that. He's just one of those New Jersey prospects, like I said, in the 8 years without winning anything, they didn't really know what path they were on, and they missed out on a lot of really top talent in that 2015 draft, especially being the Connor McDavid draft and all the players that went around him that you could have selected. It was just a missed shot in a china shop sort of thing. After Pavel Zacha, there's not a whole lot to gloat about. You got a guy like Travis Zajac, who is 35 years of age. Is he retired IRL? He might even be retired IRL. I'll make a note of that, because is he? He might be. But he's a consistent player for the Devils. 532 points in his career. Been a New Jersey Devil since 2004. He's seen the worst. He's seen the best of this team. $5 million. I guess right now that doesn't hurt us, because I truly believe we're a rebuilder, and if we need to move cap, he's going to be gone in a year anyways, and he's definitely not going to be making almost $6 million. He's kind of a mentor to a guy like Pavel Zacha or Brat sort of thing. Brat. It's not Brat. It's Brad. Brad. No. Not Brad Pitt. Brat Pitt. There you go. After that, there's only 2 really notable guys. Miles Wood, I think, is a solid bottom 6 guy. Will never be a top 6 guy ever in his career, I don't think, here in New Jersey. But he's been a consistent guy for the Devils, excluding plus minus, but that's for everybody on this team. If we can say, okay, wow, he's making almost $3 million for the next 2 seasons. I'm glad it's not a long-term, almost $3 million contract, because that's one of the first contracts I would move. This team is barely at the cap floor. Barely. So right now it doesn't really concern me, but if we want to compete right out of the gate, which I don't think you guys would want me to, he would be a guy that would move. And is he long-term New Jersey Devil? I guess we'll see, right? I do like his play, though. 79 overall at 25. He can grow into an 81. Highest 82 overall if he plays right. Definitely a project like Pavel Zacha. After that, Cini, just a guy there that probably won't make it in the first-year lineup. More of an AHL guy for us. Trade ship, probably. And then you have a guy who shouldn't be on the NHL lineup in year 1. He won't be. He'll be in the AHL. Jesper Boqvist. I'm almost certain he's the brother of Adam Boqvist, who's slightly more talented with Chicago, but it is what it is. I'm a gambling man, so I'm pretty sure Jesper is Adam's brother. You don't see that name very, very often. I like him. He's 21, so in the next 2 years, he's got to take that step. He's played really good on North American ice so far. 11 points in 19 games in the AHL, which is quite impressive to do as a sub-21-year-old. 4 goals in 35 games in his first NHL season isn't really impressive, but you got to think about how crappy the Devils were last year. He is one of our better prospects. He's on the depth, on the organizational depth, I would say he's he's probably our 3rd best prospect in the system. Then you have a guy who I think is more of a trade ship in Michael McLeod. He's 22, 70 overall. If he was a 74, I'd have more hope for him. But he really hasn't proved that he's anything special for this organization. 22, he'll be 23 within a calendar year. 24 relatively soon. And it looks like he's not really growing at a high rate, so I see him more as a trade chip. Moving on to the defenseman, which is definitely New Jersey's best part of their roster. It isn't the best in the NHL, but considering what New Jersey is currently, it's well-rounded. You got Damon Severson, who I'm pretty sure last year scored on his own net in overtime against the Toronto Maple Leafs. You love to see it. Excluding that, he's not a bad defender. He's going to put up solid offensive numbers. Defensively, don't look at the plus-minus, because New Jersey's crap. It is what it is. It's hard to look at plus-minus in this game like that, right? I mean, plus-minus is a good thing to refer back to once you start simulating. It's not a good thing to look at before you get into a league or before you get into simulation. So forget all that. I like him. 26 years of age, going to be at the end of his growth cycle here pretty soon. I don't hate him as a righty. He probably has higher trade value. And then you have one of my favorite players of all time, Panel Carl Subban, PK Subi-Dooby-Doo. I love him. I don't love him at $9 million, though. But I think PK right now on this Devils team is exactly what we need. Exactly what this team needs. What this sad, sad team needs. I think his first year in New Jersey was trash. I don't think anybody would disagree. But that's also his worst NHL season ever. If you look at his overall numbers in the last 5 years as a sample, 31 points, that's not bad in 63 games. He wasn't the best. 59 points is really good as a defender. 40, 51, 60, right? He puts up offensive numbers. He is not going to be that defensive defenseman, stay-at-home guy. I mean, he's the social media all-star. He's the flashy guy on the ice. He's going to make it entertaining in a crappy season. $9 million for 2 more years doesn't hurt my eyes too bad, especially if we're trying to reach the cap floor. But I'm sure there's a team out there that'd be willing to take a flyer on PK Subban, especially if we retain a bit of that contract, which I'm totally willing to do, especially if we're trying to hit the cap floor and we want to leverage some of our cap to get more assets. I think it's a good idea. Then you have William Butcher. When he came to the NHL, I was super excited for this guy just because he was older and I was starting to become a hockey fan. I guess it was a few years into being a fan already, but I hadn't really seen a guy come from the NCAA that refused to be with the team that drafted him, kind of coming to the league with New Jersey. I'm like, New Jersey, really? I think they made the playoffs that year. He was really good. And he's kind of been faltering off ever since. I mean, -8, 21 points in 56 games isn't all that bad, especially on New Jersey, and I'm going to be saying that a lot. Is he a long-term top 4 defenseman on this team? Not sure. Is he going to command more money after the 2 years? For sure. And it's going to be rough. But I like him. I'm not sure if anybody on this defensive core is untouchable, especially not Ryan Murray. 83 overall. His durability is like, not durable? Paper towel after you put water on it. That's what I kind of relate Ryan Murray to. He's a talented guy. Former 2nd overall pick. You have to be sort of talented. You have to do something right to be a former 2nd overall pick. 2012 was one of the worst drafts of all time, especially in the modern day. He puts up okay numbers. I kind of think we could flip that player. I don't think he's a day-to-day guy for us, especially if he's going to stay injured. But we could definitely fetch a 2nd, maybe even a 1st-round pick for him if he plays solid up to the trade deadline. Connor Carrick and Tennyson aren't bad players. I mean, Connor Carrick is actually really solid depth piece. His numbers overall, or his attributes, aren't even that bad. if I could lock this guy up long term, I'd be totally fine with it. If he could definitely grow to an 79, maybe an 80 before the end of the season if he has a good year. Tennyson, whatever. And then we have the first prospect from the 2020 NHL draft for the Devils. Okay, grade 4 reading and writing comprehension level. Here we go. Let me try. Whew, okay. Shakir Mukahamadulin. Shakir Mukahamadulin. I said that perfectly, and you can't deny me. He is a huge part of our future. As a lefty, we definitely need that, especially with Severson being a righty, PK being a righty, Will's the only other lefty, Ryan Murray, which I don't see as a part of our long-term future, Carrick righty. We have a lot of righties, and that's actually really weird because the majority of NHL players are left-handed, or left shooting at least. So I definitely like him being there. I like him. 68 overall at 18. Not too shabby. Moving on to our NHL goalies. One of the most surprising signings of the offseason, or one of the most surprising stories of free agency, was Corey Crawford leaving Chicago, whom he had won 2 Stanley Cups with. Chicago winning 3. 35 years of age, a guy who is definitely on the decline. He's been on the decline for a while, but if you look at his numbers, he wasn't bad on that Chicago team. He's been a .920 average for a while. He hasn't played a full season in 3 years, which is rough. I don't ever wish that on anybody. But even in his down years, he's putting up good numbers on a Chicago team that hasn't been good for the last couple of seasons. Corey Crawford leaving Chicago, it feels weird. It feels like Corey should have retired in Chicago. We're definitely not going to be winning with Corey. But I love him on our team right now. A couple of reasons. We have a young goalkeeper coming up by the name of Mackenzie Blackwood, whom we will get into in a second. 35 years of age, 84 overall, going towards the deadline. $3.9 million is not hard to move, especially if we want to retain a little bit, we can, because I'm sure there's a team out there, Chicago, potentially, who could use the services of a Corey Crawford. I also love him splitting games with our goalie of the future, Mackenzie Blackwood. 23 years of age, 83 overall, medium elite. I love what this kid's done so far in the NHL. Sorry, there was a fly. Fly? How did the fly get in here? That doesn't make any sense at all. Cat, do your one job! Oh, this video's gone awry, hasn't it? Mackenzie Blackwood. I really like Mackenzie Blackwood. One of the more underrated goalies from the last couple of years. Like, the younger goalies. If you're thinking younger goalies, like Shesterkin, Georgiev, Carter Hart, Merzlikins, Korpisalo, Samsonov from Washington, that sort of group. He's put up good numbers, especially on these weird Devils teams. He could be good. Goalies are weird in this game anyways, so I'm not totally set on him being our Martin Brodeur prototype, which we won't ever get again. Maybe he's good, maybe he's not. But I like these two guys in year one at least splitting time. I don't want Mackenzie being the starter right out of the way, especially if our team isn't going to be good. I'm okay with Crawford taking more of the losses. I'm okay with that. They're a good tandem. They should put up okay numbers, even if we're not great as a team. Moving on to in the system, AHL, International, CHL, all that jazz. Our highest rated prospect, or highest overall, I wouldn't say he's top of our depth charts, is Kukkonen, who had a really solid season in the AHL last year. 48 points, played one game with New Jersey, but that's a scratch. It doesn't really count. He's played really good on North American ice so far, especially in the last couple of years. He's played good in the AHL. Is he going to transition to the NHL? His resume is confusing right now. 1 game, 7 minus 2. He is yet to score 1 point in the NHL. If he doesn't make it into the league for us, I only see him as a depth piece. A third line at the highest. He's 22. Him and Merkley are sort of at the age where they have to jump up into the lineup. They have to be the guy on the inside looking out. Or they're a trade chip to me. They're not our top prospects. Speaking of top prospects, our best forward prospect is Alexander Holtz. Right winger, 18 years of age, right-handed, the 7th overall pick in the 2020 NHL draft, and a two-way forward. Oh, do you know why I love that? I've been saying it this entire damn episode. Identity. If we want to be a two-way forward, power forward, mash and smash team, Alexander Holtz was one of the best picks New Jersey could have made for us. I like him. Is he NHL ready right away? No. Do I want to get him onto North American ice? For sure. And that's why my plan is to get our AHL squad looking pretty, because I want Alexander Holtz to at least be an 81 for the start of the next season. I want him to crush it. He's our best prospect. And actually, let me go forwards first. Then you got a few middling guys. Street isn't really anything great. Probably an AHL everyday guy. Nothing special. Zetterlund and Bastion, kind of in the same spot. Decent overalls. Okay potential. At the highest, fourth line player for us. Despite anything major happening. Then you have a few depth players for the AHL. Our AHL team might not even be great out of the gate. That's why I want to go ahead and sign some free agents. You got Mikhail Maltsev. And then you have one of the most buttery names in the NHL, especially the last name. 69 overall. Centerman Brandon Gignac. Oh, I friggin' love that. I wish he was actually good. The next best prospect is Yegor Sharshenakovich. I butchered that, but it's okay because he's 69 overall and that makes everything better. Studnik isn't great. Nate. Why did I think Noah? Nate Schnarr. Don't count this guy out. 68 overall at 21 years of age. Low top 6. If we give this guy time in the AHL, penalty kill, bit of power play, sprinkle it in there. He's got a decent shot. He could be something decent for us. At best, third or fourth liner. At worst, he's a trade chip for us. And I'm okay with that. This team needs trade assets. You got a few other guys here, and one of our best forward prospects came over in the Taylor Hall deal. Nolan Foote, brother of Cale Foote from the Tampa Bay Lightning. Wait, no. Nolan Foote came over in the Blake Coleman trade. My bad, guys. Why did I think that? No, somebody else. It was a defenseman and somebody else. It was probably Nate Schnarr that came over in the Taylor Hall trade too. Yeah, I'm slow. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and this is the second time I'm recording this episode. Okay? The second time. Okay? So you're going to have to live with it. You're going to have to live with my brain falling apart. I like Nolan Foote. I love that he's a power forward. I love that he's 6'3". If I'm going into the more power forward, two-way forward team, he's definitely going to be a part of it, especially that overall and age and potential. He's going to be great for us. Dawson Mercer is one of the guys that I forgot to edit, and that's why this is not the first official episode. This is a roster overview. Dawson Mercer, the 18th overall pick for New Jersey in the draft. this past draft. I have to make him at least a medium top 6 because if you don't go, you're not medium top 9 if you go 18th overall, especially if you were drafted like literally 2-3 weeks ago. Dawson Mercer was solid in, what is that, the QMJHL? It might be. Not bad statistics. I like him as a prospect. I would say he's probably top 5 in our organizational depth once we fix that potential and everything. I like him. I do. Pitlick, another solid pick from the New Jersey Devils in the 2020 draft, 4th round pick from the OHL Sault Ste. Marie Greyhound. Sault Ste. Marie? Sault Ste. Marie. Yeah, I don't know why. I'm slow. Not a bad player right there. After that, it's nothing special, really. Pasick and Clark are just depth pieces for us. Moving on to the defense. Probably second in our organization. My organization now. I am the president and general manager. Just gonna have to live with it. I stole New Jersey right from underneath their seats. Ty Smith, our second overall prospect on the depth charts. An absolute stud. I think we're going to be able to get him into the AHL this year. Maybe I'm not sure what the age restrictancy is for the AHL. I really like a medium or high top 4. He's a stud. After that, the best prospect is Kevin Ball. He was the bigger asset that came over in the Taylor Hall trade. 70 overall, low elite. He could be anything for us. He could be, depth guy. He could be a top 4 defenseman for us at the end of it. I want him to be great. He's 6'7", 240 pounds. He could kill you if he looked at you the wrong way, if you really felt like it. I like him. Jacobs and Vukovic aren't anything special. Vukovic, maybe. Vukovic is one of those players that could be a really solid depth piece for us. At highest, 82 overall. That potential is definitely going to stunt him a bit, but at 73 at 19, that is very much in his favor. Jacobs, I remember him as being one of those guys you could pick up in free agency, and you just flip him for a first-round pick. Can't do that this year, because that's cheesing the system, and I feel like people wouldn't appreciate that if I did that. Our depth pieces aren't anything special. I might have to upgrade Nikita Okahutaruk. My bad. I really don't mean it. I'm pronouncing it in my brain and it just comes out of my mouth. I apologize, but he's not a bad prospect. Nothing special at this point. And for the depth goalies, nothing. Guy like, no, I won't even pronounce their names because it's not worth mentioning, really. It really isn't. They're nothing special. So Mackenzie Blackwood is the guy that we're placing our bets on. We definitely want to go out and draft a few goalies in the next couple of years. So that is it for the organizational depth. Now, as I said before we talked about that, I posed a question. Rebuild, retool, or compete? Let's look at our lineups real quick and see what we're working with in year number 1. Overall, this team could maybe sneak into a playoff spot if the goalies are at a 920 all year. But if we're looking at it in the Eastern Conference, you look at the Metro teams that are up and coming. Get the Islanders, the New York Rangers, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Carolina Hurricanes, the Washington Capitals. New Jersey's probably the worst team in that division. And then you look at what you're competing against in the Atlantic. Tampa Bay, Boston, Toronto, Montreal. Skip Buffalo because they're a clown show. And Detroit. I mean, Yzerman's running Detroit now, so it's technically not a clown show. We are one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference. Bottom three. That's my opinion. And I think on paper, you should agree with me as well. Obviously, guys in Hichet and Jack Hughes are players that we want to protect. We want to make sure there is still talent around them if we trade guys like Gusev and Paul Merier away. If we trade Zajac, we want to make sure that we keep our young talent in the fold and protected. If we do a rebuild, the plan would be 2 years of sucking, potentially going for a playoff push next year, but this year is when you want to sell assets because they're going to be at their highest, because their morale isn't affected. You want to get to that trade deadline and you want to sell a guy like Paul Merier for like a first and a prospect. And that slowly regains your prospect pool. Even though our prospect pool isn't that bad, you want to add more to it. At worst, a 3-year rebuild. In my personal opinion, that is the best route. If you guys really think we can compete now, I don't really see it. I don't really see it. This is going to take a lot of retooling to do. Defensively, there's a lot of guys we can sell off. Goaltending as well. Corey Crawford could be gone at the end of the season. This team could be solid. The simulation could be in our favor. But I truly do not believe this team is in competition mode. We are absolutely a seller at the deadline. Depending on the simulation, I think we want to go for one of those top players in the draft class this year. I want an Atu Ratti. I want a guy like Brant Clark or Luke Hughes or Kent Johnson. I want something good. Or Edvinson, who is an actual player that I spent a lot of time editing today. I spent so many hours editing players. The top 15, the top 20 is really damn good this year. It's a good year to be bad. It is a great draft to be bad this year. You want a top 5 pick. Add another player for a Nico Hischier or Jack Hughes. You want to rebuild, and I think that's the best option. There was also another question that I had, and that is more in tune to free agency and other teams. There are a bunch of top players without contracts, and by players, I mean RFAs. Matt Barzal, Dubois, Reinhart, Olofsson, Mantha, Ethan Bear, Pollock, Bertuzzi, Virtanen, D'Angelo, who I have to give him his new contract. There's a lot of players here that I have to redo, or give contracts to. But I did pose into a live stream. I did pose a question to viewers during a live stream, and the majority of them said, a guy like Matt Barzal, put on the Islanders for 1 year at what he's asking for. And then after that 1 year, they can renegotiate. Obviously, that isn't super realistic, but I don't want a guy like Matt Barzal and Dubois sitting on the free agent market for an entire year, stunting their career, stunting their morale, stunting their potential, stunting their entire well-being. I don't want that for them. They're top prospects in this league, top players in this league, and they will be. So the question is, should I just give them 1 year contracts, like the top 10 of them? Should I just give them a 1 year contract, and then we'll have this problem again at the end of the next year, right? At the next off season. I think it's a good idea. I think that's a fine idea. I'm going to show you our trade value. Obviously, trade value is different this year. But saying, if we want to do a rebuild, a guy like PK Subban can get you a prospect, maybe a first, depending how his trade value is affected going to the deadline. Or Paul Merier. He's going to get better throughout the season playing with Nico Hischier. His trade value should go up. Ryan Murray. These are guys you can look to trade. And I truly believe this team is in a rebuild mode, and I want to set them on the right path. I want to do my due diligence and put this team on the right path. Not this weird friggin' purgatory they've been in for the last 8 years. I want this team to be good soon, but not right now. Short-term pain for long-term gain. And that is the plan. I am leaning towards doing that. But there's no simulation this episode. That is the question I pose to you. Also, should we maybe go for this defensive style team? I've never really seen that work in NHL games, but that's definitely something we could try out. Obviously, I want my offensive talent, but that's definitely something we can try. I know you guys wanted the longer episode. I mean, we're at what? 40. Wow, we're at 40 minutes of me just talking. It's almost 3. Oh, it's literally 3 o'clock in the morning. Wow, I have to go to school in the morning and edit this and upload it and all that jazz. But Thursday is going to be an exciting day. We will officially start GM Thumb's tenure in New Jersey. It is going to be such a fun episode. Obviously, go ahead and go in the link in the description below. Follow my Twitter. I post there regularly. That's where all my news comes from. That's where I post all my updates and when uploads are going to be and live streams and all that jazz. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this one, please leave a like, leave a comment, share this with people who you think may enjoy this sort of thing. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.